A landmark ruling has come down from the International Court of Justice. The decision from the UN's top court finds countries can be in violation of international law if they fail to protect the planet from climate change, and countries harmed by its effects could be entitled to compensation. Here to break down what sort of real-world effects this ruling could have, I'm joined by Heather Fast, who is an environmental law instructor at the University of Manitoba and the Policy Advocacy Director at the Manitoba Eco Network. Hello, Heather, hello, good to speak to you.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so this case is being dubbed as a bit of a David versus Goliath battle. Tell us why it's being characterized that way.
So I would say this is because most of the discourse around this case is really focused on the kind of discrepancies between who is emitting the most GHGs and therefore contributing the most to climate change versus those who are the most impacted. So unfortunately, since those who are most impacted tend to be kind of small island nations, which is one of the voices we've seen speak up quite a bit in this process, they tend to be small emitters or face challenges that larger emitters don't have in the same way. So basically, it is this kind of, I think that's been highlighted a lot, is this battle of these smaller jurisdictions trying to seek compensation and make sure that there's international laws to protect them. I don't necessarily view it as a David versus Goliath battle. I think this confirms the obligations of all states for everyone and is a beneficial ruling for all citizens who want a better future. But I do suppose that one promising outcome that you already mentioned is the potential for more legal tools like going to court and other opportunities, such as through the International Court of Justice, to bring court cases and other legal proceedings to, again, try and hold some of these bigger emitters or states in general who are not following their obligations responsible. So maybe, again, there's this focus on the empowerment, the potential empowerment of the small states who are most impacted by climate impacts.
So as mentioned, this could be a legal tool. Explain to me, though, it's non-binding. So I'm curious, how could this ruling actually be used?
So in international law and in environmental law, things are really fast developing in terms of our understanding of climate impacts and in terms of the rapidly changes that we're experiencing, things like physical temperature, and we're seeing an increase in things like forest fires, which is particularly significant in Manitoba. So this law is really slow, especially in the area of climate law. So even non-binding decisions can be really helpful and persuasive. There's also a lot of credibility and weight that derives from the fact that this question was answered by the International Court of Justice. It was asked by the United Nations General Assembly, which is one of the most authoritative bodies, in a resolution that was supported by many members. It interpreted binding international laws. So the laws discussed, some of the climate treaties and things are binding. So I would consider it to have legal weight, to be persuasive both internationally and domestically. And again, I think is something that will likely lead to further international and state level developments. So I do think it's impactful in that way. I also think it provides incentives for states to act on the international commitments they've made under the range of the binding treaties that the court's interpreting, and to take action to protect the environment and human health.
So what sort of message does this send to governments and around the world, and what sort of action do you hope it inspires?
So I think there's been a lot of celebration around this decision because it does confirm the importance of collaborative global work to address climate change and mitigate climate impacts. It confirms the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment as a human right, and the protection of environmental rights are needed to enjoy all other human rights. So I think that's an extremely strong message to send. Basically, I think the outcome and the message to governments is do what you've committed to at the international level, meet those climate targets, biodiversity targets, the sustainable development goals, all of the commitments to recognize and protect environmental rights. And again, this is a message from the world's top legal court of the United Nations. It was unanimously decided, which is very rare, and decided by a whole bunch of different judges from across the world. So it could not have been a more authoritative decision at the international level, at least until we get our first test case out of it. And plus, with the unprecedented levels of engagement at the written and hearing stages, there were so many different states and international organizations involved. I think it's sending a very loud and clear message that climate commitments cannot be ignored and must be a core consideration in all government decision-making processes, not just internationally, but at all levels.
Okay, well, we will leave it there. Heather, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.